Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be making throw pillowcases with no hardware, so no zippers, no buttons. It just has a nice sewn closure in the back. This tutorial is super beginner friendly. It will take no time. I really like the idea of pillowcases instead of pillows for the couch because I like to change them out every season, but I do not have the storage to keep storing a big bulky pillow or two, you know? I like to take just the insert and change out the cover every season. This was supposed to be my Christmas one, but obviously I'm doing it a little late, but I purposely got this color fabric so that it can stay up all winter. It's not Christmas specific, but it does look really nice at Christmas time and throughout the whole winter. If you are interested in this tutorial, then keep watching. The first thing you're going to need is a fabric of choice. I actually got super lucky and found my fabric in the remnants section and found two identical fabrics of the same length, which was 3/4 a yard. The next thing you need is a pillow insert. Mine is 16 inches. You will need thread in a matching color to the fabric that you chose, scissors or a rotary cutter, an iron, pins, and an acrylic ruler. With my fabric right side down, I put my pillow in the center and pulled up 1/3 of the fabric. I then folded an inch of the fabric backward and just pinned it in place in the middle. This is going to be the first half of the closure in the back. I pinned it all the way down because we are eventually going to press and sew this. I then flipped over the other 2/3 of fabric and I did the same thing, but I really made sure that they are overlapping. You want to make sure that when you fold it over an inch, that your fabric overlaps the other side like that. I then just pinned it all in place to be ready to press. You're going to want to press this down really good because this is going to create a line that we're going to reference. So right here, unfold your fabric and fold the raw edge into that line that we just created. We're going to also press this down because once we finish pressing this, we're going to fold it again. So we're going to fold it one more time, which is actually going back to the original fold that we had at the first press. What this does is it encases all of the raw edge inside of the fabric, so you'll never see a raw edge in your pillow. I brought it over to my machine and I did a 1/4 inch seam allowance from the edge. I then also did a 1/4 inch seam allowance from the other side, the other edge, the edge that's towards the rest of the fabric. As you can see, it gave two nice crisp lines and is going to keep that raw edge really tucked inside of there and keep it really neat for the rest of the pillow. After sewing both edges, I brought my pillow back and folded it back in the way that it will be. I now did some really unofficial measuring by taking a pin and putting it where the pillow ends. You could actually take a ruler and measure how much you need, but I like my pillows being really, really plush, so I'm okay with this pillowcase being on the smaller side. I brought out my ruler to measure 1 inch from that line I just made with the pins. I originally tried to do it with a pencil, but because my fabric is plaid and really dark, it did not come out. So I ended up just putting up the acrylic ruler, holding it in place, and cutting off what I needed. After marking and cutting both sides, I'm putting my pillow together on the right side of the fabric. So this is how the pillow would look. This is the outside of my fabric. I pinned it in the middle to make sure that those stay overlapped. And then I just pinned the outside so that we can stitch it at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Again, we are stitching on the outside of the fabric because once we've done this stitch, we're going to turn it inside out and stitch it on from the inside. This is how a French seam works. So it encases all of your raw edges. So we don't have to do any serging, and then we won't have any raw edges on the outside. What I did was I just rubbed my seam open as much as I could so that I could give it a press and make sure that it stays nice and flat for our next stitch. Instead of using a 1/2 inch seam allowance, I actually did it at 5/8 this time, just to ensure that all of that raw edge is really tucked in there and encased. Once you have sewn both sides, you're going to turn it right side out. As you're turning it right side out, make sure that you really pop out those corners and make them really crisp. Now you can see with that French seam from the outside, a nice seam, no raw edge, and equally from the inside. There's no raw edges, it's all inside the seam. Now you are done. Just take your pillow and insert it into the pillowcase. I find the most success by putting it in the 2/3 section first and then flipping that last 1/3 over the pillow. Then you're just going to make sure that those two overlap and your pillow is complete.